Hola, muy buenas tardes a la reunión. Si necesitan entrar a escuchar la reunión en español, pueden seleccionar el logotipo que tiene como un mundo y ahí dice interpretación y luego va a seleccionar el idioma español y también va a querer seleccionar el botón que dice silenciar o mute original audio, que significa silenciar audio original. Eso es para que escuche la reunión en español. Si quiere llamar por teléfono, el número de teléfono es el 888-240-3210 y el código de acceso viene siendo, déjeme ver, es el 337-3645 y el signo de número. Y si tienen alguna pregunta, me pueden dejar saber en este momento.
Thanks, Marisela. And we will repeat these instructions when we start our meeting officially in just a moment. Just for those of you who are joining earlier and getting all set.
Can you turn, oh. I'm just gonna stop share while I go live on Facebook, Hannah.
I'm gonna wait a couple more minutes for the rest of the folks to join us. And we officially start in just a moment. Thank you for being here tonight. And as you're joining us, please go ahead and mute yourself to minimize the background noise. We'll start in just a moment. Okay, and we are streaming live on Facebook. Excellent, thank you, Kim. Okay, it's 5:01, and I know some of you are still joining us, so let's go ahead and get a slow start going with the Spanish interpretation instructions and renaming yourself. You can see the slide on the screen. Good evening, everyone. Once again, my name is Hannah Stelmakovich, and I am part of the facilitation team from the Institute for Local Government. As always, the Institute for Local Government is here to facilitate these meetings and really capture community voices and priorities and ensure that we hear all the different voices and priorities from the community as we continue to implement SERP in Shafter. I'm gonna kindly ask folks who are just joining us, go ahead and mute yourself. And before we continue with the agenda review and our meeting, let's make sure our Spanish-speaking committee members are all set and connected to all the necessary audio. On the next slide, you're gonna see how to connect to the interpretation. We're offering translations in Spanish and English as always, and there are two ways to connect to the Spanish channels. The first one is gonna be on your tablet or on your computer. On the bottom of the screen, you're gonna see the globe, the little globe sign that says interpretation. You're gonna click on that and select your Spanish channel. The other way to connect to the Spanish channel, if your technology is not cooperating with you tonight, is via your phone. It's a backup translation line, and you're gonna connect to that by calling the number on the bottom of the screen in the blue box and type in the participant code. Again, two ways: use interpretation globe and select Spanish channel on your computer or tablet, or use your regular phone and dial the line for the interpretation. And I'm gonna pass it to Mari with the Air District, who is gonna share the instructions in Spanish.
Hola, muy buenas tardes y bienvenidos a la reunión de hoy de AB 617 para Shafter. Por alguna razón, si todavía no ha entrado al sistema para escuchar la reunión en español, tiene que buscar el logotipo de interpretación y luego va a buscar el idioma de español y va a oprimir español y luego también va a querer oprimir el botón de que dice Mute Original Audio, que significa silenciar audio original. Y en caso de que no pueda entrar a la reunión por esta manera y escuchar la interpretación de esta manera, puede llamar al número de teléfono el 888-240-3210 y esto está aquí en la pantalla si la puede ver. Y el código de acceso viene siendo el 33-73645 y luego el signo de número. Y si tienen algún problema, se puede comunicar con nosotros o dejarme saber en este momento. Y nada, entonces vamos a seguir con Hannah. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you, Marisela. And I want to check back with Bianca. I know there are several people at that location and want to ensure that they're all set with their audio and video and all the technology is working. I think I see them nodding. Okay, well, as always, at any moment, please pause this meeting if we're running into any type of audio difficulties for the Spanish channels, and we'll try to resolve that in real time. Or you can also, if you have any technical difficulties with Zoom as we go, please chat my colleague Kim, and she will try to help you in real time via direct message in the chat. Okay, looks like we're all good to go. Everyone is set. Let's review the agenda. So what are we doing today? I feel like every time I say we have a full agenda, and it's really true. Every meeting is very productive and we have a lot to discuss. Today, we're gonna start with our traditional standing updates, where we're gonna hear from CARB, DPR, and Air District staff on subcommittee updates. We're gonna continue with the update on enforcement activities. CARB and Air District staff will provide you quarterly updates on enforcement activities. We're gonna then move on reviewing the new tracker, what it says new Shafter tracker or updated Shafter tracker, and Jessica will share additional information that the Air District included in this tracker based on your feedback and review. And we're gonna wrap up this meeting by talking about the new committee members, what membership for the new members means, how do we proceed, and what type of applications the Air District has received for other residents in the community who would like to be part of this committee. Before we wrap up and go over the next steps, we're gonna have a public comment period. Okay, I'm gonna pass it to my colleague Kim, who is gonna review virtual meeting etiquette. This is not the first time we're participating in Zoom, but these meetings are open to public. And for those of you members of the public who are joining us for the first time, this is how we run our Zoom meetings. And these are the different functions and Zoom controls that we use in this particular meeting. Kim?
Thanks, Anna. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. You should be pretty familiar with this by now, but just a reminder to stay on mute throughout the meeting. Unless you have a question, then you can raise your blue hand or drop it in the chat box, and we will pay special attention to that. If you are using the chat box, please remember to put an @ sign so that we can tell who you're responding to. It helps us keep better track of the chat. If you're using two different devices for audio and video, you can sync them up. You just press pound and then type in your participant number. But if you need any help, you can chat me or Hannah, and we're happy to get that done for you. And just a reminder that the chat is public, so just to be respectful to each other.
Great. Thank you, Kim. And a couple more reminders. This meeting is being recorded, and we're also streaming meeting on the district's Facebook page. The meeting is live. Another couple friendly reminders, this meeting is open to public, and we're grateful for all members of the public who are joining us today via Zoom or watching us on Facebook. There's two ways to submit public comments, which we will address at the end of the meeting. You can message the Air District on the Facebook, or you can type your questions and comments in the chat box. In the end of the meeting, we're gonna have a public comment period where we're gonna ask you to raise your hand, unmute yourself, and share your comments or questions for the group. And another friendly reminder, my colleague Kim is renaming yourself and tracking all the participants to make sure for those of you who are qualified for the stipend program, we get your attendance recorded, and you have to be present for the 75% of this meeting to qualify for this meeting's stipend. And I'm gonna circle back to my colleague Kim to ensure that we capture everyone. Perhaps someone is joining us on the phone, so we know who is who, especially for those of you who are eligible for the stipends.
Hannah, let's see. We have a G Parker that maybe I might be able to better rename, just so we get your full name and your organization. And then I have just a John listed. If that person is able to speak up, and I'll just unmute you guys as well. And then somebody by the initials RP.
Okay, so we have a person named John, just the first name. John, if you can unmute yourself and let us know what is your last name, if you're a member of the committee or the public, we appreciate that. And who and other two, Kimberly?
RP are the initials for one. Oh, and it looks like Grayson Parker was able to rename himself, so that's great. Thank you for your help, Grayson. So just John and RP.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is RP. This is Renee Pinnell, just a member of the public.
Great, thank you, Renee.
Okay, well, I don't think we're hearing from John, but John Kim will continue send you direct messages to make sure we capture your name. Again, the purpose of that to ensure that we track all the committee members and especially those who are eligible for the stipends. Okay, I think we are good to go with our housekeeping items. I'm gonna circle back to Maricela one more time to make sure our Spanish-speaking participants are all set before I pass it to Ryan and our wonderful community co-host, Annabelle Marquez. Maricela, you're...
Hola, muy buenas tardes. Si alguien está teniendo problemas, ¿me puede avisar en este momento? Ok, escuchando nada, entonces yo creo que vamos a estar bien, estamos bien para ay, ya ni puedo hablar. Vamos a poder seguir con la reunión. Hannah? Thank you, Hannah. No comments right now, or no issues with Spanish. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I'm gonna pass it to Ryan, who's then gonna pass to our Annabelle, our community co-host. Ryan?
Yeah, thanks, and good to see everybody. We have a full house, which is always fantastic to see. It just means we have a lot of people that are really interested in the program and moving the measures and the CERT forward. Definitely want to thank all of the partner agencies, DPR and CARB, who also take a lot of time to partner with us and helping with this CERP as well. And as Hannah stated, we're really happy to have Annabelle as a co-host tonight. And with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to her.
And Annabelle is going to share a quick presentations with us about this community.
¿Sí la escuchan? Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. Buenas tardes, es un placer saludarlos de nuevo.
Good afternoon, it's a pleasure to say hi to all of you again.
La historia de aquí de la ciudad de Shasta.
A little bit of history for the city
del comité, mis miembros están aquí también conmigo. Esto se empezó desde antes del año 2000, muy antes.
Señora Annabelle.
Annabelle.
Pues
Señora
empezamos con pico, pala, ¿verdad, Felipe?
Annabelle, we're gonna pause you for just a moment.
I think, oh, you know what? You know what? She should be fine. So she can go ahead and keep speaking, and I should be able to interpret simultaneously because she's on the Spanish channel.
Okay,
Is it not gonna work,
comenzamos
Marisela?
con palas y picos limpiando ese espacio que ustedes ven ahí. No estaba así, estaba lleno pues de mucho hierbarío, chamizal, y pues las tardes nos íbamos ahí a limpiar y a ir quitando.
Anabel, necesitamos dejar una oportunidad a Emilia que ayude a traducir para las personas que están hablando en inglés. Si nos puede decir como una oración o dos y luego dejar que Emilia haga la traducción al español, por favor.
La otra foto.
Marisela, it's because she's listening to Reina, so she's not hearing you.
Oh, that's right.
So can we switch, Marisol and Emilia, can we switch to
it's because we can't do the simultaneous interpreting only because she's in the Spanish and we would still hear her even though she's in the Spanish. So we do have to wait in between. So
the instructions weren't reaching her because she's just listening to Reina.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we ask Reina to ask Annabelle to speak and then pause? So we translate that in English and we're gonna go like that.
Perfect. Okay, puedes seguir.
Slide.
Is that good? The right slide?
I think we're still on the first slide.
Okay, mine is showing. Let me stop and restart them.
Hemos sido participantes de abogacías.
We've been participants
con nuestros miembros del Senado.
Along with our members in the Senate.
Porque hemos ido a pedirles que nos ayuden.
Because we've gone to ask for them to help us.
A detener un poco la contaminación de pesticidas.
So that we can stop a little bit of the pesticide contamination.
También hemos estado en asambleas, en seminarios con miembros del petróleo.
We've also been in assemblies and seminars that have to do with petroleum.
Pues ahorita nuestra comunidad es muy pequeña y tenemos más de 300 pozos petroleros.
Right now our community is very small and we have more than 300
Es uno de los retos que estamos teniendo porque supimos.
This is one of the challenges that we're having because we found out
que ya se va a dar un permiso para otros 76,000 más pozos petroleros en el estado de California.
Because there's also, we found out that there's going to be permission for about 67,000 more.
Y eso es muy triste para nuestra comunidad.
And this is very sad for our community.
Sabemos que el COVID esta pandemia se ha llevado casi como 500 de aquí de la ciudad de Shafter, 500 personas.
We know that because of this pandemic, the pandemic has taken more than 5,000 of the members of Shafter.
Pero yo les pregunto, ¿ustedes saben cuántos se nos han ido por cáncer, por asma, por otras enfermedades que dan la contaminación de las pesticidas y el petróleo? La fiebre del valle, que apenas el año antepasado se les permitió a las clínicas y a doctores que hablaran de eso.
So, but I want to ask you if you know how many people have died from cancer, from asthma, or any other sickness.
Es una lucha que hemos tenido por muchos años.
Just a year ago, valley fever was also another one of the things that was included, and it's one of the challenges that we've had for a lot of years.
Si ustedes miran, hay niños ahí en las fotos. son miembros de la escuela que está pegada a nuestro jardín comunitario.
If you can see that there's children there that go to, they're members of the school that is right there next to our community garden.
Ujú. Ahora, imagínense con más pozos petroleros, si sus hijos fueran los de ustedes, los que están ahí jugando cerca del petróleo, es triste para nosotros.
Now, just imagine having more petroleum wells. Imagine those being your children playing alongside that. It's sad for us.
Pero en estas visitas de Sacramento, Oakland, que hemos estado con los senadores, con varias personas que nunca por la mente me pasó conocer,
So,
ellos
but
están lejanos de lo que pasa.
so even going on into all these meetings in Sacramento, Oakland, sitting with the senators, that people that never in my mind did I think that I was going to be meeting.
Pero gracias a Dios no nos sentimos cansadas y queremos seguir hacia adelante. Queremos seguir luchando por nuestra comunidad y por el mundo entero, porque
But thanks to God, we're still here. We're not tired. We're going to keep fighting, not just for ourselves, but also our community and also for the world entirely.
ojalá se encuentren programas como el que ustedes nos están brindando a nosotros para ayudar a las comunidades.
Hopefully we can find more programs like the ones that you guys are providing to us for other communities.
Sí. Y que nos ayuden ustedes, que esto sea un experimento para poder salvar el mundo. Gracias.
And for you guys to help us, for this to be an experiment for us to save the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Annabelle, for this very real presentation. It's never easy to lose a family member or community member. And thank you to Emilia for translating that on the fly. And yes, AB 617 is set up to find some of the solutions to alleviate some of the sufferings in the community and clean the air. That's why we're here. And Annabelle, what I'm hearing from you, you're eager to continue this work in the community, and thank you for that. And it looks like a lot of people are giving you a round of virtual applause. Okay, well, let's continue doing some work that AB 17 is set up to do. We're gonna move along the agenda, and next on the agenda is gonna be our standing updates. First, we're gonna hear from Chai on air monitoring updates, followed by Jamie sharing with us about school filtration and bus subcommittee updates. And then we circle back to CARP and a Department of Pesticide Regulation updates. Chai?
All right, thank you. And good evening, everybody. Good to see everybody here. Yeah, so there's a couple things going on that we're pretty excited about for Golden Oak and Sequoia. Just a quick refresher is Golden Oak, we're putting the air monitor on the northwest side behind the portables, close by to the street. And then at Sequoia, we're going to put our multi-pollutant air monitor over there right next to the DPR existing monitor over there. And for these two, what we need to do is we need to put the fencing around it and then connect the electrical. And so this Wednesday is when the fencing is going to go up. And then we're hoping that the next week we'll be able to get the electrical in and get both of these units up and running. And then that covers those two. And then the other one is at the Shafford Labor Camp. We placed the air monitoring trailer there just last Wednesday. So that's all set. It's located there, and the electrician or contractor is ordering their parts, and hopefully maybe sometime next week those parts come in, and then we can hook that one up, and so we can get all three of those monitors up and going on that. And that pretty much concludes my update. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you, Chai. Sounds like 3 more monitors gonna be up and running in a matter of week or 2. Quick questions for Chai before we move to the next update. If you have a question for Chai about air monitoring, please raise your hand. Gus, I see your hand up. Good evening.
Yes, how's it going? Good evening and hello everyone. Gustavo Aguirre with CCJN and a steering committee member of Shafter. One of the questions I had, Chai, thank you for the overview, was recently I was looking at some data from the air monitoring like weekly updates, and I saw a relatively like alarming spike during the 26th to the 29th of January in the community of Shafter that actually went over both the 24-hour PM10 standard. During that period of time, I'm thinking of this example as some kind of like interagency collaboration that could actually exist and could flourish from here. If there was any kind of like looking into why there was such a spike. I went back several months, or several weeks rather, and didn't see such a big spike. So I'm thinking, or I'm asking, like, was there any communication to like the local agricultural community to see if there was potential harvesting or burning, like open ag burning, or what was the possibility of this spike that happened back in the week of January 25th?
Yeah.
Thank you for that question. Chai, I'm gonna pause it for just a moment. Let's double check that interpretation is going well. We received the message from Bianca about interpretation. Bianca is saying they're not hearing anything.
She is interpreting, but let me see. Reina, are you back on Zoom? Okay. Can Bianca confirm that she is hearing her?
Yes, I am on Zoom and I am also on the phone.
I just spoke with Reina, and she says she's on both Zoom and on the AT&T call. Let me go into the channel myself. Hold on. Okay, Reina.
Sorry, I spoke too fast.
You're fine.
¿En español? Okay. Sí.
All right, are we back?
I can. So hold on. I can hear her. Bianca, can you still hear her?
I can hear you, Reina.
No, the problem was the interpretation. I did not hear Gustavo's question. So I'm doing multiple channels. So I'm doing English and Spanish. So I'm hearing both, and I didn't hear anything in Spanish.
Okay, so go ahead. Did you silence the original audio so you only hear the Spanish now?
No, I'm actually in 2 devices. So I'm actually on my phone in English, and the ladies are in the Spanish with my computer. And I did not hear the interpretation for Gustavo's question. So I was wondering if somebody could interpret Gustavo's question.
Okay, we'll go ahead and have her repeat his question. Gus, can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Briefly summarize the question.
And I'll do a short version. Just inquiring about some potential partnership or collaboration in the most recent spike of PM10 in Shafter.
Yeah, so so I'm thinking we're talking about the same spike. It was January 27th. There's a high PM10 spike there, and you know, we did look at that, and in the weekly report we did a note in there that this was due to high winds, and we actually had a health caution advisory that we issued as well. So I'm not sure if are you referring to any other additional, like, for example, did it not reach the community, or are you looking for some additional outlet from there as well to make sure that everybody gets that message?
Right. No, my question was more on less like of the 3 monitors at DMV that won 2.5 and 10. The PM10 went over the federal 24-hour PM10 standard. And so it looks like the short period of time based on the weeks back that I went and retroactively in the other charts. And so I was thinking of, was there any kind of communication of like why this occurred? But it looks like there was some potential wind activity that caused this to spike, right?
Yeah. Yes, that was, yeah.
Okay.
Gus, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Excellent. I'm going to circle back to our participants in the Espanol channel to see if there are any questions for Chai, and then we'll move on to the next update.
Okay, it doesn't sound like we have any on the phone or on here at this moment.
Thanks, Maricela, and thank you, Chai.
I'm sorry. Can I quick follow up? Sorry.
Okay.
There's a note that I saw in the weekly updates. There was a VOC sample that was taken, a 24-hour sample that was taken on the 27th to the 29th. I'm guessing that information is not available yet.
Yeah, no, not yet. They're
Okay.
usually
Okay.
it's a month. Yeah.
Cool. Looking forward to that information. Thank you.
Great. We have an action item to follow up on that information. Okay, let's move on to what I was informed Brian Dodds is going to give us updates on school filtration and bus subcommittee. Brian?
All right, good evening, everybody. Good to see you again. Just a couple brief updates on these topics. We had a very productive meeting with some representatives from the Richland School District just about a week and a half ago, both on air filtration and school buses. And in those discussions, it sounds like on the air filtration measure, there may be some opportunities within the at the schools within the district to increase the air filtration on some of their sites. At other locations, the equipment's already operating with the highest level filter that the systems could allow. So they're going to investigate that a little bit further to find out where there may be some opportunities to increase the air filter ratings at those school sites. We should be kind of learning some more information, once they can get back to us with what they found. On the school bus side, as with a lot of electric school bus projects, the biggest hurdle that they're dealing with right now is on the electrical infrastructure necessary to charge the buses. And so they're currently, there's been ongoing discussions, and they're working with PG&E to address the electrical needs at their preferred charging location, which would be at the junior high site on the cross streets of Valley and Wall Street. And they're trying to see what they need to do to get the infrastructure installed at that location. We've offered our full support to help them out wherever we can on trying to overcome this infrastructure hurdle. They currently have contracts for 4 buses, which they would love to be able to change out. But they, at this point, can't move forward with purchasing the new electric buses until there's certainty on the charging infrastructure and we can get those issues resolved so that they know where and have the ability to charge the buses, which is obviously critical to getting those buses deployed. So there's some work to do on that side of things, but I think they're super excited, and we're hoping to make some progress and continue to work with PG&E on getting power out to the site where they need it. So those are the updates that we have tonight for those 2 measures, and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Great, thank you, Brian. I'm gonna start with our participants on the Spanish line to see if they have any questions for Brian. And meanwhile, go ahead and raise your blue hand and I'll call you after.
We do not have any on the AT&T line.
Okay, no questions from Espanol line. I do see your hand, Gus. Please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about that. My question. Thank you for that overview, Brian. My question. We recently spoke with some of the residents on kind of like the agenda and the tracking sheet and whatnot. And on the air filtration system conversation, I believe there was, at least I think there was an outstanding action item that was pending on the potential list of the schools that were up to date, like on the air filtration systems and the capacity to install these new devices and those that didn't. And then the possibility of those that didn't receiving some kind of mobile or stationary ill filtration device. And that conversation, I think, was pending. And the other point to that was for those like Head Starts and those other kind of early education facilities, kind of like where we were on those.
To your second question, the guidelines currently are for K through 12 schools, and I believe that there was some discussion about maybe going to daycare centers or early education centers once we've sort of exhausted the opportunities within public schools, is my recollection on that question. On the first one, I didn't have that, as that hasn't necessarily been on the list of our things to do. I can add it and follow up with some of the school districts and find out sort of where they are with identifying, what's available for their particular schools. I think it's been an ongoing effort. There's certainly a lot of different issues associated with getting kids back to school, and the particulate matter issues and air filtration, along with pathogen reduction methods, have probably been at the forefront of their mind. So we can continue to follow up on that, the question that you've got as well.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it was more or less along the lines of like, do the vast majority of the schools that follow within these guidelines of K through 12 fall in within this, or is it split down the middle, or is there going to be a lot more investment on the mobile unit infiltration pathway than like the ones that are already ready to go?
Yeah, it seems like, at least anecdotally in our conversations with most of the school districts, their systems are primarily operating with the highest level filters that they can handle. And so the standalone units may be an option, but there are lots of pros and cons with those standalone units too. And it's not just as easy as getting them and putting them in the corner of the room. There's noise, and there's, having open doors and various other things that could be drawbacks to deploying the standalone units at school sites. And you might need multiple standalone units depending on the size of the room. So there's not yet a kind of a one size fits all approach for these types of projects.
Yeah, it would be like a whole system or network within itself. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. All good questions and several action items and several follow-up items, what I'm hearing. Okay, I do not see any more hands, any more questions for Brian. If you can think of any other questions for Brian or Chai, please use the chat box. And Brian and Chai, I'm going to stay on the line and happy to answer your additional questions in the chat box. Meanwhile, we're going to continue moving, so we stay on time and on track today. Our next update is from the Department of Pesticide Regulation. And I'm going to pass it to, I believe, Val.
Hannah, thank you very much, and good to see everybody tonight on the Zoom call. Nice to see my colleagues from state government as well as local government. I think I saw the Ag Commissioner on the line as well. Certainly hello, and my greetings to the members of the steering committee who are on the phone too. You'll hear a little bit from my colleague Nan about some of the work that we're doing on local mitigation pilots in the Shafter area and how we're developing those with the assistance both of the Ag Commissioner and local growers. But I wanted to provide you a brief update on where we are regarding notification, which has been an issue of real interest to the steering committee and to others in California. It's certainly one that I remain committed to, and I've spoken with several local folks today and over the weekend about the things that we have planned, and I'm going to gather folks together for a call on that issue specifically in a couple of weeks. I don't want to go into great detail tonight about what we're thinking about doing. There was an article in the Bakersfield Californian that some of you may have seen recently that described sort of where we are on that issue generally. But I wanted you to hear from me directly that I'm committed to this issue and look forward to working with all the parties to develop a pilot notification system that makes sense for the residents of Shafter and that part of Kern County. So Hannah, I'll be happy to take a question or two before I turn it over to my colleague Nan, and look forward to the dialogue.
Yes, thank you, Val. Let's go with several questions, and then we turn to Nan on local mitigation pilot project update. I see a hand from Bianca.
I'll wait until Nan.
Okay. Well, I don't see any other hands. Sounds like it makes sense to turn it over to Nan and then hear the questions and comments after Nan's update.
Sure. Thanks, Anna. So I have briefed the committee, last couple of months on the 1,3D or T-loan mitigation pilot project. Essentially I've been giving you guys a feel for the progression of the project. And I was happy to announce that, our first pilot happens to be just, north of Shafter. Mentioned that, we wrapped up monitoring right around early December. It started in November. And, we're going through the process of analyzing having the lab analyze the samples. We're starting to get data in. And I think I remember correcting myself last time just to mention that, we plan to have the reports or the short reports written on these things, but they won't be available until we have the lab data from the lab completely in and analyzed, and that will be all written up. So at this point, we have 3 more applications lined up. However, these next 3 are not necessarily going to be right around Shafter. I think one is in Tulare County that we're looking into, and then also 2 more are farther up north, probably close to the Stanislaus area where they use some T-loan up there as well. And each time I come back, if I'm not here, I'm sure program staff will step up and also give you an update on the progress of those projects as well. And the idea is we want to do a number of these, of course, to help validate our modeling, which will support the rulemaking, which it's been said many times before here. It's just kind of remind you guys that's our goal. And but we do want to take a look at as many of the alternative application methods as possible. We start looking at 2 on the first study, and now we're going to be looking at additional ones, so we have a good feel for that. And I think that will be just kind of the update on that. I know maybe there'll be more questions regarding notification, and that's why Val is here tonight. So, but I'll take any questions if you have folks have questions specifically on the mitigation project.
Yes, thank you, Nan, for that update. Looks like some samples are being analyzed, and potentially this committee can expect to see the report with the results that's coming. Okay, Bianca, thank you for raising your hand again. I didn't forget you the first time. And then I also see John. We're gonna go Bianca and then John.
Yes, I have one for Val. I really
Bianca?
wanted to thank you.
Bianca, your connection.
The commitment that you've done for
Bianca, your
the
connection
chapter
is
on the notification.
Bianca, your
Can you hear me?
connection. Bianca,
Hello?
we could not hear you, Bianca. Your internet didn't cooperate with you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. We can hear you now better.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm in multiple devices and there's like 3 devices here.
It's quite all right. We can hear you now very well. Please go ahead and repeat your question because we did not hear a thing.
So I actually wanted to thank Val for continuing the commitment here in the community of Shafter. I know that there's been a lot of efforts with the notification, and doing the follow-up with us has been a crucial part of making this effort present. And I do have another question for Nan for the T-loan. Would you be also testing with the 12 measures that Shafter was implementing? I know that there were 12 measures, recommendation measures that would specifically reduce the T-loan emissions. And with the study, would you be using it, or how is the testing going to happen?
Sorry, maybe I'm not familiar with the 12 measures. It's in the SERP, Bianca? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and I think she's
Yes.
talking about the 12 different or so practices that we're
Oh,
looking to
okay,
demonstrate.
thank you. So your question was, well, I think we are going to be trying to get through as many of those as we can. We want to have kind of a comprehensive coverage of those methods. And also, as part of that, the idea is to get a feel for the feasibility for the growers as well and the applicators. We want to know if it's something that could be done by them. They're going to have different receptiveness to the various methods. And remember, some of them are really just a combination of, the base methods. There's like maybe a 3 or 4 or 5 base methods, and then there's combinations thereof. So did I answer your question, Bianca? I was fixated on the SERP, and I lost my train of thought there.
Yes and no.
Okay, let's try again. I'll do better this time.
I don't know if you want to call me back. Maybe we could chat after the call, but I do have
Sure.
a couple questions on it because I remember that you had done it here, the study here in Shafter, and I wanted to see if you implemented it in different areas. Would it be the same? Would it be the same sample or kind of the same testing, or changing it, or how would the testing be? So maybe we could chat offline. I know my questions are a little bit long with you, but yeah, I want to pick on your brain for a little bit.
Sure. I'll do what I can to help. And I want to remind folks too, since I have the stage right now, is that we have the air monitoring network station there in Shafter, and hopefully I mentioned this last time, is that we reinitiated kind of full analysis on our samples starting last month. So before we were focusing mainly on 1,3-D because obviously that's very important, but we're now actually doing analysis on a lot of more pesticides like we were doing before. I just want to give you guys a reminder of that.
So Nan, just for the benefit of the group, that air monitor looks for 31 different pesticides and then 5, breakdowns of those pesticidal compounds.
That's exactly right. Yeah, the same ones that we were looking at, before we went kind of offline a little bit and focused just on 1,3-D. So.
Thank you, Val.
Yeah, I was going to say, Hannah, for the benefit of the folks who've not been following our mitigation pilots very closely, what we're seeking to do is identify means of suppressing particularly 1,3-D emissions that are equivalent to tarping. And so those range from deeper injections to the use of a water seal to partial tarping to various other things. And I think that, we developed 12 or 13 practices, and the hope, Bianca and others, is that we'll develop some good, robust science around that to help educate potential future regulatory actions. And we'll be happy to take questions offline or come back to the group when we've got more findings to share.
Great. Thank you, Val. John, thank you for your patience. I see your hand up. Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks. I was just, unfortunately, I didn't ask this while you were doing the testing and pilot program in Shafter, but I was just wondering if it might be helpful or possible or maybe some of the members of this committee were able to go in the field and actually see firsthand and get explanations from those who are doing it, exactly what those pilot programs are. I know sometimes it means more and it has a greater impact. It does for me to be in the field and actually be able to see it versus seeing a deck or seeing it on a slide or having it explained to me. So if, I'm just wondering if it would be possible if people wanted to actually get in the field with someone from pesticides to have a hands-on explanation.
Yeah, we'd be happy to do that, John. I have really been thinking that I've got to get back out into the field and think that I can do that in a way that's safe and appropriate given the pandemic. But, Nan and I would be happy to come down at some point in the next couple of months and, provide a little tour of the air monitoring facility right there in Shafter and then, answer questions at the Veterans Hall or something like that.
And I think most of the committee is familiar with the air monitoring station and been there. I'm mostly interested in just having a hands-on sort of explanation about the different procedures that you're using in the pilot programs to do your rulemaking for loan.
Be happy to do that.
Great.
Yeah, John, I think the key is, for your convenience, we would have to try to identify an application or field that's nearby. As I was saying earlier, some of these other fields may not be as close, but we potentially could work something out, especially if we can get something near Shafter again. That would be more convenient for you guys. I think the other thing to always think about as well is the safety concerns and issues. Our own staff are aware of some of the safety concerns, and they have to wear PPE, and then there's certain protocol about when to be in a field. So if there's, I don't want necessarily to become a safety issue. That's the last thing I want, certainly, and also want to be manageable.
I wouldn't necessarily suggest that we're actually out there while the application's taking place, but I think standing there with explanations about what exactly is going on and an illustration would be, I think, helpful.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, John, for bringing up excellent action item. It looks like Department of Pesticide Regulation is willing to follow up and put something together in accordance with all the safety measures and things like that. Good, good, good. Okay, we have a question or a comment from our Espanol line.
Sí. Yo quiero hacer una pregunta.
Okay, siga, Bianca. Anabel. Anabel, ¿cuál es la pregunta?
Tenemos una enmienda del ABC 1000 aquí en la ciudad de Shafter y en ella hay una parte de construcción de casas y yo quiero preguntar qué tan involucrados están el AB 617 y la ciudad de Shafter. ¿Cómo se comunican o cómo se pueden estar mirando el trabajo para que sea bueno para los residentes de Shafter? Si está bien mi pregunta, si no, ¿cómo la puedo hacer?
So she mentioned that we have an amendment for AB 6000, I believe she had mentioned. They're in the community of Shafter, and there's a part in it for building houses. So her question is, how do you communicate, AB 617, how do they communicate with the city of Shafter in order to help out the community? Oh, SB 1000. Thank you, Gus.
I don't know who is going to take this question.
Hi, it's Wayne Clausen. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, go for it.
Hi, Wayne.
So, I'm the planning director for the city of Shafter. Yeah, we just released our draft environmental justice element to the public for early review and comment. And they're any of the folks, all they have to do is go to the Shafter's website and download a copy. Just go to the main page. It's right up front. You can download a copy of that document and get involved with the whole process. What it's, and I'll give the website address so everybody has it. It's at www.shafter.com. And so we've asked for some early comments by February 22nd, so we can get an idea of what folks are looking at. And then we're going to, if we need to make any revisions on the draft, we'll do that by January 25th or February 25th, release it again. And then right now we're tentatively scheduled to have a public workshop on that document. I believe it's going to be on February 18th, but don't hold me to that. We'll get that all noticed. And then we'll, so folks can comment again on the document there if they'd like. And we'll have a translator for that public workshop. And then we'll have the Planning Commission will have a public hearing, and folks can submit comments on the document on that on March 8th or 9th, something like that. And then they'll make a recommendation to the City Council, and the City Council will consider the document on April 6th or the 20th. And we'll continue to receive comments on that document up to that final council meeting.
And just to piggyback on that, Annabelle, our district staff, there's a couple of individuals, they're actually not at tonight's meeting, but they can come and chat at a future meeting if that is something that the committee would like. They are in contact with Wayne and will be commenting on these types of city documents to make sure that they line up with the AB 617 measures that this committee has included in their SERP document.
Thank you, Jamie, and thank you, Wayne, for dropping the link. And if any other information you would like to share in the chat box, please do, and it will get translated into Spanish with all the dates and deadlines. And Air District is coordinating, so more is to come. Great question, thank you, Annabelle. Okay, any last questions for Nan and Val before we go to updates from CARB? Okay, Gaz?
Hey, how's it going? Promise to make it short. And I think I just might have missed it. Now, what were the two, the two alternatives that were done in the pilot that was just wrapped up? Or the two strategies, I'm sorry.
Oh, that was done in Shafter?
Yes.
That one, I believe, is a high soil moisture and
Okay.
deep ripping. Those are the two I remember from that location.
High soil moisture.
Yeah, basically it keeps the
Yeah, the retainment.
soil. Yeah,
and the second one was
deep ripping. It just creates more space, below the initial top level. So the fumigant gets to kind of move within that area, but not up so much. So.
Okay, and is that different from the deeper injection one that was also proposed as one of the strategies? I know there was one that was the moisture I remember, but the one that it was like a deeper injection. But I think some farmers were worried because the whole root diameter and stuff.
Yeah, that's different, but I know that for sure we'll be looking at more of that, the deeper injection, because that seems to be something that the growers are interested in looking at for sure. And the next location that we're applying, I believe, is definitely looking at deeper injection.
Appreciate it, man.
Sure.
Thanks, guys. Excellent clarifying questions. Sal, I see a hand up. Good evening.
Hi, this is a SERP related question and I don't know where on the agenda I can ask it, so I'm going to ask it now. There is one of the items on the SERP that I thought I saw at some point was that there was a tree planting or urban greening, and there was a $50,000 from the Air Board, and then there was supposed to be a match. Supervisor Couch had spoken with Shamir about this and asked if donating trees from the Tree Foundation, $50,000 worth of trees from the Tree Foundation, would count as the match. And we haven't heard back from the Air Board. Supervisor Couch suggested we bring it up at this meeting. So I wanted to bring it up at some point. Don't know when I should have brought it up, but here we are.
Thank you. Thank you, Sal, for that question. So I'm going to circle back to the Air District and see if we can put a pin in that question and perhaps answer it later when we go over the tracker and we circle back to that question, because I also want to be respectful of our agenda and that CARB staff is next and want to be respectful of their time. So Air District, please help me here. If we want to put a pin in that question and circle back to that during Shafter tracker updates.
That sounds like a good plan, Hannah. We'll touch on that.
Yes, thank you, Sal. We'll circle back to your question. Okay, I don't see any more questions for Val and Nan. Thank you so much for being here and reaffirming your commitment. And our last but not least standing update for today is from CARB. Scott, I'm going to circle to you.
Great. Good evening, everybody. Scott Wall with the California Air Resources Board. Thanks for being here this evening. Good to see everybody again. I have two quick updates. One is I just wanted to point out to everybody who's interested that we do have a public workshop coming up on March 4th. There's 2 different meeting times, one at 1 p.m., one at 5 p.m. And the purpose of that workshop is to, if you'd like to learn more about our advanced clean fleets regulation and give us some input on that, we'd love to have you join us for that. This is really just about aggressively beginning the turnover of the government and business trucks over to zero emission. And so would love to have you join us for that. I will drop a link in the chat so that you have access to that information once I'm done here. And I also wanted to, I'm excited to introduce you to our new Director of Office Community Air Protection, Deldy Reyes. She started with us a week ago, and I would like just to let you know who she is. So Deldy, would you mind introducing yourself?
Thank you so much, Scott, and hello to everyone this evening. Thanks for being here tonight. I see many faces I know, some I'm looking forward to getting to know better. I'm super pleased to be here in my new role as the Director of the Office of Community Air Protection. I also want to mention that CARB also has a new Deputy Executive Officer for Environmental Justice to whom I report, and that is Chanel Fletcher. And so she and I are both very committed to moving forward with this program and working in partnership with all of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Deldy. And that's really all I have, unless there's any specific questions for any of our activities or questions for Deldy.
Any questions for Deldy or Scott? I see no hands being raised. How about our committee members on this Spanish line?
No questions coming from the AT&T line, and it doesn't sound like we have any here.
Great, thank you, Maricela. Okay, let's keep moving along. Our next on our agenda is updates on enforcement activities. You guys, this committee mentioned that enforcement updates are very important to you. At the last meeting, the district presented the annual report on enforcement and walked through the document. Today, it's time for the quarterly updates, a lot of updates on enforcement. Valerie from the Air District and Justin Shields from CARB will share those updates with you, and then we'll take questions and comments for them.
Hello, thank you. I'm Valerie. I'm the compliance manager from the southern region of the Air District. These updates are going to be covering the second half of the 2020 calendar year, so from July 1st through the end of December. As you know, we conduct enhanced enforcement activity in several categories, including wood burning curtailment, illegal open burns, diesel idling, stationary source inspections, and we also plan to conduct gas station self-inspection training, but that's been put on hold momentarily until state COVID restrictions abate. For District Rule 4901 for wood burning devices, we conducted 4 hours of enhanced enforcement each day that an episodic curtailment was declared. These activities resulted in 7 violations issued for use of a wood burning device on a curtailment day, and these violations were issued from November 1st through December 31st. We are still currently actively conducting wood burning surveillance, but this update does not include January through the end of February. We also conducted 40 hours of enhanced enforcement surveillance of District Rule 4103 for open burning. That happened from July through the end of December. Additionally, we responded to 5 public complaints for open burning, and 6 open burn violations were issued as a result of site inspections. We do continue to pursue targeted enforcement of unlawful heavy-duty diesel truck and bus idling. During the second half of 2020, 1 violation was issued for idling, and we continue to establish an increased district presence at industrial settings and near sensitive receptors. An enhanced inspection frequency of stationary sources has continued from July through December of 2020. We do this to ensure compliance for facilities that have a history of emissions violations over the last 3 years. During this time frame, 26 violations have been issued at stationary facilities. 9 of these were emissions-related violations, and 76 site inspections were conducted in total. As always, we welcome any feedback you may have to focus our efforts and improve our enforcement activities. Shared knowledge of reoccurring illegal open burns, diesel idling hotspots, or visible emissions at stationary sources is always appreciated. From July through December, the district responded to 11 public complaints. 5 of them were for open burns, 2 were for ag burns, 3 for fugitive dust, and 1 for stationary source material being deposited on a roadway. 1 violation was issued for fugitive dust. And as per district practice, education and outreach was conducted at each location and site we visited. I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, any questions for Valerie on enforcement updates and the work that district is doing? Gus, I see a hand up.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you again. Is there anywhere that we could see this enforcement report, like written up, or is it on the web somewhere?
This one did not have a write-up associated with it. We had raw data to impart, although we always have access to information through public records requests.
Okay, and so this is a specific ask from as a steering committee member. Would it be possible to have like a one-sheeter or some kind of write-up or report available from this most recent enforcement action, or should I individually go through the public records request process?
Hey Gus, it's Ryan. We can definitely put together a resource like that for the committee. The other thing that we do, and we gave this out during the last steering committee meeting, was that annual synopsis of all the enforcement, which included everything that we had done from the interim, from the first enforcement report through, Jason, I can't remember the specific date that we went through. And then that also included CARB enforcement update as well. But yeah, we can put together something that summarizes the things that Valerie was talking about as well.
Sure, just like on like specifically like the hyper focusing on the 9 emission related violations, like if those, you know, I don't know, just the kind of person who likes to look at that kind of data. So if that could be available to the entire steering committee, I think that would be of good use.
Okay. Thanks, Gus.
Great action item. Thank you, Gus. Any other questions for Valerie, or perhaps feedback or suggestions for the future enforcement efforts, besides presenting data in this one sheet type of data presentations? Well, let's circle back to our Spanish line. Anyone on the Spanish line, questions for Valerie?
At this moment, we do not have any questions.
Okay. Well, this agenda item is not over. We're gonna pass it to Justin Shields with CARB on his updates.
Hello, everybody. My name is Justin Shields, and I'm from CARB's Carbon Enforcement Division. And just to start, Gus, I don't have a one-pager with all the data on it right now, but we are working on getting a one-pager put together and approved to share out. And you know, maybe we can share that with you and get your comments and feedback as well. And we're also working on getting our enforcement data visualization tool. I've shared the link before. I'll share it after my updated with all the 2020 information. So as soon as that's updated, I'll be able to share that with you as well, and you'll be able to see what happened in the community and where it happened. But to get to my update, I just wanted to thank everybody for giving me the time to talk with you tonight about what we've been doing and what we did in the fourth quarter of 2020 in the Shafter community. And I'll be brief so that way we have time to discuss where you would like us to be next. So CARB staff were in Shafter on 2 days in the fourth quarter of 2020. During this time, we performed 136 program inspections on 40 heavy-duty diesel vehicles, and we issued 2 citations. One citation was for a heavy-duty diesel vehicle having an unregistered transportation refrigeration unit, otherwise known as a TRU. And that means that it wasn't, that unit wasn't reported to CARB. So we're continuing that investigation to make sure that that unit is compliant and that the fleet has compliant TRUs. And we should be able to give an update on that in the next meeting. There was also a second violation issued for tampering. In addition, CARB inspected one piece of off-road equipment, and we found it to be in compliance with our rules and regulations. And finally, while in the field, CARB staff performed roaming idling inspections and investigated 28 heavy-duty diesel vehicles to determine compliance with the state's idling regulation. All the heavy-duty diesel vehicles investigated for idling were found to be in compliance with our rules and regulations. Also in the fourth quarter, we launched the community outreach and enforcement page on the CARB's website. I'll drop the link in the chat as soon as I'm done. And we also updated the idling fact sheet, and that's in English and Spanish, and I'll share the link to that as well. Now to transition to 2021, I want to know if there are any areas that you would like to see CARB enforcement look at, or if there's anything that you would like enforcement to accomplish in this new year. If there's not enough time tonight, or if you would like to contact me at a later date, I'll put my information in the chat box, and I'll share my email just in case you're on the phone. It's Justin, JUSTIN, .shields, SHIELDS, @arb.ca.gov. And like I said, I'll put my information in the chat box. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me anytime, and I'll get right back to you. So now if there, if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask.
Great. Thank you, Justin. We are doing well on time. We're right on time. In fact, we have another 5 to 10 minutes on this agenda item. And I would like to circle back to Justin's question. Are there any areas this committee suggests CARB should focus on future enforcement activities? And the second question was, what would you like CARB to accomplish in 2021? So if anything, would like to share your thoughts, suggestions for the area, what success looks like to you, we'll welcome those thoughts and comments. Guys.
Some emission reductions would be great for 2021. But no, on a serious note, I thank you for the oversight, Justin, and I do look forward to checking that out. And I just want to circle back on, 2019, 2020, when we talked about, areas of concentration that we thought were important. And both, in Shafter and in the 7 mile radius. So if I get some feedback from residents on, or other folks on maybe some places where we could concentrate after viewing the places that have already been targeted or have been part of these projects, then we could go from there. But thank you so much.
You're welcome. And just so you know, for the roaming idling inspections, they cover the whole 7 mile radius, and they focus on sensitive receptors such as schools, senior centers. And for the rest of those inspections, due to CHP requirements, those are usually done along the California highway. And they're done via like a truck stop with CHP.
Right.
Thank you for that comment, Gus. I'm going to circle to our Spanish-speaking participants to see if there's any suggestions for Justin or questions. Okay, and Bianca is saying no.
And we do not have any on the line.
Okay, So Justin dropped his contact information in the chat, as well as the link to the community outreach page, and this discussion to be continued.
And like I said before, feel free to email me or call me if you have any suggestions or any questions.
Excellent. And we hear this a lot tonight from the state agency folks, where they're saying, hey, feel free to call me, I'm here for you. So just wanna share something that I'm personally noticing. Their phone lines, you know, their contact information, their phone lines are open for you. Okay, and there's some additional information for you coming from Crystal in the chat box. How can you participate in other listening sessions? Transportation and Toxic Division's listening section on March 4th. So folks, just a few notes in the chat. There's a lot of information, a lot of dates, a lot of ongoing workshops. So definitely write it down if you're interested in any of that. Okay, with that, we're gonna wrap up the agenda enforcement activities agenda item, and we're gonna keep moving. We're gonna keep moving to the Shafter SERP tracker, which Jessica is gonna go over the tracker in just a moment. As you folks remember, committee members, maybe members of the public, the Air District has put together a document that makes it easier for you, for anyone, to go online and see where we are with the SERP implementation. And the document went through different versions. First, it was a long Word document with a lot of information. What we've heard from this committee, it's important also to include fiscal information to ensure there's a fiscal transparency and accountability. And based on your feedback and suggestions, the Air District has revised the document and put together a version that a little bit easier to follow. A lot of information is at glance. And if you would like to get more information, you can just click on the links. For those of you who wants to do research, they can do to learn more information, you can do that. For those of you who just want to see a SERP implementation at glance, this document allows just for that as well. I've been told that the Spanish copies of these documents have been mailed to our Spanish-speaking participants. So you should have a paper copy of the document in front of you. Jessica will share her screen and walk you through this document that is already posted on Air District's website. And for our Spanish-speaking participants, please follow with the paper copy. And with that, I'm gonna pass it to Jess.
Sounds great, thank you. And thanks all for all the great feedback that Hannah just mentioned. We recognize there are a lot of measures. We've spent really a year now trying to work with the committee to move a lot of these measures forward. And of course, we've talked a lot about what we can do to move these measures forward. We've gotten a lot of great feedback. And so we hope that this really captures a lot of the work that's been going on, especially in the past several months as we really continue to get a lot of these measures, especially the incentives measures, off the ground. I always like starting with the 617 website just to remind folks or introduce folks who are new on how to get here, especially members of the public joining us. So this is the community.valleyair.org. This is the Shafter community, and you click here to go to the community page, which has a wealth of information, as a lot of you understand, including the SERP, all of the appendices, steering committee materials, and documents and other letters that have been submitted over really the past 2 years by committee members. So here right on the top, you will always find the most updated version of the tracker. It's both in English and in Spanish. And so as Hannah mentioned, please, for the Spanish speakers, follow along on the printouts that we sent to you. But I wanted to highlight a few differences from this compared to the one that you had before, and then really open it up for any feedback or comments or questions. I'm definitely not going to go line by line for sure. I just wanted to highlight a couple of things that we want to draw your eye to anytime that you take a look at this. We hope to update it before every meeting, so hopefully every time you see this, there's something new being pushed forward. But as before, it's organized by category. So there's the agricultural stuff, the community measures, the measures that hit more at the heavy duty trucks, the measures that are more outreach based. So that's all the same. The difference is we've made it hopefully a little bit, like Hannah said, more digestible. We've made it shorter. You definitely don't need a full dissertation on each measure. Not only are you pretty familiar, but we have the SERP to have all of those details. What we have done is we've outlined where we are in the CAP guideline development. So as you recall, and you've heard a lot from the incentives folks, we're working with CARB to get approval for certain project plans to have some of these measures move forward. And so you can see here whether or not the guidelines are currently under development, whether they've been submitted and are awaiting approval, and whether they've been approved, and that's what the A means. If there's an NA, that means it's not applicable, which just
I'm gonna interrupt you just real quick. I think it's such a great column to show to everyone. Let's just zoom in just a little bit.
Sorry, thank you.
And
as you stopped me, I was like, I bet I'm too far away.
Let's maybe, I think this is good.
Are we good?
Yes, because there's a lot of letters, and I want to make sure that you guys see all these letters and what does it mean. So at any time you open this document and you can read it. So that's what
definitely.
just is.
No, thank you, certainly.
Thanks,
I appreciate stopping me. So the idea just here is that this column is where we're at with those guideline developments, and why that's really important is I think the main thing that you're going to want to see, and something that Gus just said, and you know, and then he later said something, oh, in all seriousness, but I think Gustavo was very serious when he says in 2021 we want emissions reductions, and that is certainly the goal, and a lot of those are going to come from some of these incentives measures. So as we start to fill in the A's here, meaning we have approved project plans, we can start with the outreach to the folks that are going to take advantage of those incentives programs and start filling in this bold column. So as you scroll down, this bold column is what we've done to date. We've committed what's in this left column that says committed. So this is maybe the amount, if it's an incentives measure, the number of pieces of equipment we've committed to funding. And to date is what we've done so far with the AB 617 funding within the SERP. So as you scroll down, you'll see if it's something that's maybe more of an outreach measure, it just says what we've done. So in this case, the conservation tillage practices, we've had 2 workshops in the area that hit at these sort of local agricultural groups. If it's something related to an incentives measure, you'll see, depending on what kind of measure it is, we haven't yet, as you know, we've given a lot of feedback on this. We haven't yet spent the money or replaced the units, but that's what we're going to work toward. And anything that's maybe an outreach measure, there are several actually down here, maybe where we commit to a certain number, or maybe I'll start with this, an enforcement measure, just like we heard an update from 2 of our enforcement folks. Maybe we committed to a certain amount of surveillance. And so that's just kind of letting you know that we've done and we've committed to that surveillance and pushed that forward. Something else that was kind of brought up, not only are you going to see what we committed to overall, so in this case, this is the funding commitment for school buses to replace 10 buses to date. As you know, from the school bus committee, we have yet to do any additional ones or any ones from this SERP. But you can see moving forward, these are the targets that we want to, or the units that we want to target in each year. So in this case, we want to target maybe replacing a certain amount of buses in each year to total that 10 buses over the course or the lifetime of the SERP in the next 5 years. And then we also, in our last tracker, didn't show really the important thing, and back to Gustavo's point, the reductions that we want to target with all of these measures. So this just kind of gives us an easier, quicker way to look at the measures. And then of course, the status update, the very important piece of what have we done? Where are we at with a lot of these measures? What's the next step in a lot of cases? 2 things I kind of want to push or highlight. One is that a really great point that Jamie made when we were talking a little bit about SB 1000 and how we work with the city of Shafter. Under land use is where you'll find a lot of those different measures where we commit and are already continuing or already working rather, coordinating with the city. So those are the sorts of places that you'll see really detailed status updates after we have those meetings, perhaps after we bring folks in to talk with the committee. The other thing I would like to bring up, and I'll maybe kick it over to someone on our team to talk about, and then we can come back about questions about just tracking, is there was a discussion about urban greening vegetative barriers earlier that Sal had mentioned. And so maybe we thought this might be an opportunity as we we're going through the tracker, as Hannah mentioned earlier, to talk a little bit about that match funding that Sal had brought up and kind of how we can push that type of measure forward. So I'll kick it over to Todd, I believe on our team is going to talk about that. really
Yeah,
briefly. We'll go back and I'll
sorry.
take some questions.
Thank you, Jess. And Sal, I was wondering, just so I make sure I fully answer your question, could you go over what the specific question was? I know it had to do with match funding for a certain number of trees to go towards the $50,000 match requirement. Could you just maybe repeat your question just so I have it?
So somewhere in here, there's a $50,000 match, or there's $50,000 in the CERP for urban greening for trees. And the Tree Foundation of Kern was wanting to know if matching it in kind with additional trees would be adequate. And so Supervisor Couch was asking Shamir about that, and he wanted me to bring it up at this meeting right here.
Sure. And so I think the short answer is yes. What we're doing right now is we're in the process of developing our project plan to submit to CARB for approval for this measure. And I think, certainly a strategy where we're matching a certain number of trees that have been provided, if we're doubling that, those trees obviously have value, and, you can associate a dollar amount to those trees. So I think it's reasonable to assume that you could use that type of approach to satisfy the match requirement. I think that's kind of in line with the overall goal of this measure, which is to increase, the benefit or the effectiveness of a program by providing either match funding or additional resources, in-kind contributions such as trees. So absolutely, I think that's in line with kind of the intent of the measure. We are right now kind of reviewing other measures throughout the state. We're in contact with the Air Resources Board as we're putting our project plan together with the hopes of getting something in and submitted and then back out from CARB very soon. And we'll certainly, keep this committee updated as we move through that process. But I think the short answer to your question is yes. I think that's in keeping with the intent of the measure to sort of, extend the benefits of a program and extend the amount of funding that we're putting into the program.
No, I believe that Linda Martin has a draft strategy to plant those trees, and so we should check with her to kind of review that with you to see if you're okay with that. But she had locations and an idea of how to do that, and we would be glad, Linda and myself and a few people from the Tree Foundation and from Keep Kern Beautiful, to kind of regroup and discuss that in further detail now that we know we have basically permission to go forward with that idea.
Yeah, I think that would be super helpful. It would help us to kind of put a finer point on our project plan, and then, get something submitted to CARB for approval. I think it would definitely be helpful to circle back.
We'll get that together. Thank you, Todd.
And Linda, you have your hand up. I assume you're going to chime in. Please go ahead.
It sounded like Todd and Sal had it worked out. So it's going forward, I believe we have a Keep Kern Beautiful meeting this week. So what we can do is, you want everything itemized, and would you need a letter from the Tree Foundation, Todd, and we would send it to you?
Eventually that may be necessary. I think at this point, I think we just want to get a better understanding of what the plan is, and then how we can, from our side, how we can roll that into a project plan that gives us a flexibility to do what we're talking about here, as well as if there are any other potential strategies that we want to look at for Shafter, and then, our other community in Fresno as well, and make the program plan broad enough to sort of encompass all of those ideas. I think this is certainly one strategy that has a lot of promise, and seems to be very workable, but we want to make sure that we're looking a little bit more broadly as we're writing the project plan. Basically what we want to do is we want to write a project plan that says, we've got funding available, give us a project, and if it meets these criteria, we'll fund it. So that's certainly one of them. And I think we want to follow up to make sure that we understand the nuances of that program, and just be comfortable with that fitting into the project plan that we're writing for CARB.
Okay.
But yeah, I think eventually, sort of that documentation of, from the Kern Tree Foundation that basically says, we would be donating these trees, or we would be, providing these trees as a match to the project, I think would be helpful.
And then would you also need letters from, say, some of the schools or Richland District, Grimway Academy, saying that it would be okay to plant trees there for the children?
Yeah, ultimately, as we move forward with the specific project, we would need that documentation. But I think for writing the project plan in advance of the actual project, I don't know that that's necessary. But as we say, as we move forward with the implementation, yeah, we would need that documentation saying, hey, we these sites are approved to install those trees or to plant those trees.
Okay, I'll work on it. I'll get it to you. Thank you so much, Todd. I really appreciate it.
No, that would be wonderful. Thank you for your work on this, Linda. Really
Yes.
appreciate it.
And Ryan, I see your hand. I think you guys will provide more updates that the SERP tracker can possibly include about the next steps for the urban greening measure. Ryan.
No, and I think that's a good point, that we do capture this and include it in there, so everybody can just go back at any time and see that information. It's going to be key moving forward. Definitely wanting to keep our steering committee fully apprised of what we're doing and reflective of all the hard work that they've been putting in. Real quick, Linda, just trying to understand the timing of the projects that you're thinking of, just trying to match it up with what we're trying to do. I know Todd and his team are trying to get that project plan turned around really fast and get that in as soon as possible. And CARB has told us that they'll try to get that done within 60 days of submittal. And we've been really trying to push them to get those done and within those timeframes. And we've been working really closely with them on it. And we've gotten the 5 obviously approved, and we got several more to turn in. So is there a time frame that you're looking at, long story short?
The sooner the better. I was hoping that we could get these soon, so we're not planting trees in the summertime, because I don't want them to die. As far as me getting you things, I'm hoping if we have a meeting this week with Keep Kern Beautiful, I'll chat with that committee. I'll chat with the Tree Foundation, and I will try and get everything written up by this week. Is that suitable, and get it to you?
Yeah, that's great from my perspective.
Okay, and then I can work on letters of support from some of the schools just to show the importance of how much we need those, and then we can work on, I can ask the city as well and some other folks that might need trees to benefit the community, if that would work out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, that sounds great.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Looks like we identified several next steps for this measure. I want to circle back to the SERP tracker that Jessica was presenting, and clearly they're going to be updating that particular measure with new information. Jessica, can you remind committee members and maybe even me, how often do you guys plan to update this document? If committee needs more information on certain measures, for those of you who like to really dig in and research, where can they go for more information? Absolutely. And maybe third question for the Spanish speaking participants, do you plan to send out the physical versions, and how often?
Yes, so we do plan on updating this monthly before every meeting. So when we send out the agenda, the paper copy, as we always do to our Spanish speakers and any other presentation items, we will also send out the tracker. And then I don't necessarily envision this being, although it's up to the committee, envision this item and us going over it a standing item, but perhaps we visit the tracker if there are a handful of measures that we're discussing in that particular meeting. We can look at the tracker, see those status updates, and see if they match up maybe with the action items that we outlined from the meeting before. So I certainly want this to be a tool, and I hope the committee, really it's for the committee, so I hope the committee finds this much easier to look through than before. And then to your point, a lot of extra information are going to be under the relevant links, and we're just going to continue to add more and more things. A really great example is the district staff submitted, and it was recently approved by CARB, the CAP guidelines for low dust nut harvesters, and the program plan, which is sort of that outline of how the district incentives program would operate, that was approved, is linked within that tracker. So that's just one example of a lot of background information you can get. Like you said, for people who really want to dig in, there's a lot of details there, but that's certainly a place or one example of a place where someone could go and hear more about the measure itself.
Hey,
and
Jen,
again, as we get more and more coming, we can certainly add more and more links.
can I just add one thing, because you used that as an example, the low dust harvester. I don't know if I'm letting the cat out of the bag a little bit early, but our program will be opening tomorrow, actually. And we've been working hard with the California Almond Board, the growers in the area, some of the grower groups, the Ag Commissioner's Office, the Kern County Farm Bureau, to really identify the growers that are working in that area, to target these folks for incentives for these low dust harvesters. So super excited to say that that program will be opening tomorrow. We've got a full outreach campaign that we'll be rolling out, and just very excited to let you guys know that.
Very exciting. Yeah, so that's actually all I have. If there aren't questions, or take time. I know this isn't the only place, of course, or only time you can give us feedback. Feel free. I know a lot of you do this and keep doing it. Reach out to us, send us an email if you're going through this in the middle of kind of prepping for the next meeting, and you have a lot of questions, or you don't think there's enough information, or you have an idea of how it can be tweaked. Please let us know. We certainly want to make it as user friendly and really as applicable to the broader community as possible.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jessica, for presenting and going over this document. I don't know how many of you have seen this document before the meeting, but it's been online several days now. Gus, questions, reactions, thoughts for Jessica and Tracker?
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much for this document. I think it's something that had been kind of visualized in the past, but I think this format in particular, I appreciate it very much. Question on the CAP guidelines column. I see there's like development, submitted, and approval. And the NA, what does that mean? Does that mean that's like already good?
Right. So it either means that maybe it's not an incentives measure is most of the time, so wouldn't need a CAP funding guideline, or it's something there are within, and I can let Todd talk about this more, but I think we've talked about it a couple of times, but there are certain incentives types, unless we want to amend the guidelines to be very specific, that are already included or can be approved without submitting separate guidelines. And so a good example of that are could be the school filtration, but it's also if we're going to amend it and go kind of like our own path for school filtration, we might have to write our own guidelines. And so that's when we'll have to go through that process. But things that are maybe already included would have an NA, but most of it is like outreach, for example. We don't have to wait for CAP guidelines to do outreach.
Okay, so not all NAs are created equal. They're not under the same bucket, right? Meaning like, just looking at A3 is alternative to ag burning, right? And so I know that that's something that the Air District.
Typo.
Okay, but no,
that one should actually say A, because that is
A,
also,
okay.
I believe, an approved.
Yes, that's why I was just a little bit like, what?
Good catch. See, this is why we have you guys review it. So here, let me share it really quickly. I even just clicked on it. Is not all NAs are created equal, especially the ones that are typos. Let's go with that. Yeah, that should certainly be an A.
Okay.
That was an approved program plan recently, and here is the program plan linked to it as well.
Right. Okay. Cool. So thank you for that. That was like a clarified question that I had there. And then on the the couple columns over on the to-date funding, so I see a lot of $0. But obviously last year was like. There's no reason to share what happened last year, right? But it was a very particular year. And so I think, there was a lot that we could have done if 2020 was, just a regular old year. But something that I do see on some of the stuff that, are definitely some standing meetings that were accomplished, some workshops. I see like a billboard. And then I do see like 300 plus hours of surveillance, and then another 80 hours of surveillance. Both for wood burning, right? One for curtailment of chimneys, another one for residential waste. and both of those have NA next to them. And the reason why I had brought up that NA in the very beginning was my thinking was, do the NA mean that the air district already is that a pre-existing program within the air district already that receives funding? And there is no guidelines that need to be developed? Or is it kind of just like, you know, each one is independently kind of associated with the measure?
Maybe I can handle that one, Jess.
Yeah, perfect.
So to answer your question, Gus, no, these are not existing things that we were doing beforehand. And this is all tied to what the listening to the community steering committee and hearing their feedback on areas where they want to see the district do more to enforce existing rules and regulations, and so those were specific commitments that were written into there. And so there may be an opportunity for us to better or to make that more clear in there. That's definitely something that we can look at.
And Ryan, just to add one more point to that, because I think you bring up a really good point too, that really that column, the CAP guidelines development, it really only applies to the incentives measures. Okay. So I think what we need to do is maybe rethink how we're coding that and how we're showing that, because it can be a little bit misleading and a little bit confusing that those CAP guidelines, all those NAs, it really does only apply to the incentive measures, which are included in the CAP guidelines and which are not. So I think we got to rethink that a little bit from our side to make it a little bit more clear.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Like a little color rendering would definitely do the job, and that'd be simple. But no, I thank you for clarifying that. And like I said, there was, you guys are correct. There was very much a concern and a need to address, agricultural burning, waste burning, and looking at the data, looking at curtailments from chimney and residential wood burning. So I appreciate that. And then my last question would be based on this hour of surveillance, has there been is this information included on the latest enforcement? Does it have, are they interconnected, based on the hours equivalent to this much violations or whatever?
I can answer a little bit of that. Certainly, and again, I think this is all great feedback for maybe making things a little clearer, even clearer, I should say, and easier to read. But for example, in RB5, we showed how many documented violations. We also will continue to link the enforcement actions or the more updated enforcement actions. So this actually is very related to your question earlier to Valerie. Maybe that one pager or a quick rundown of the quarterly updates will drop right in here. So not only can you see what recently happened, you can see the most recent update and all of the actions that are associated with that specific measure.
Great. No, thank you guys. Thank you guys for putting this together.
Yes, and we see comments from Michelle and Linda in the chat box saying thank you. This is a great document, and people, Air District staff who worked on this document, I see a lot of hours of work. They probably pleased to hear that this document is a good one. Angie, questions, thoughts, reactions? Good evening.
Hey, good evening. I was just going to add something to the low dust harvester issue. I'm not sure if you guys are aware, the World Ag Expo actually starts tomorrow. Is there going to be information there presented at that for the local farmers?
The World Ag Expo is a little too big an audience for this grant program. Well, what happens is that the World Ag Expo has way too many folks that are outside of the Central Valley that can, especially outside of Shafter, that can apply. We are doing a variety of things to target the community though. We're doing and Heather, I can't remember who it is. We're doing the Ag Source magazine. So we do have ads in Ag Source magazine that will be out at the Ag Show. Who's the other one that we're working with?
Valley Ag Voice.
Valley Ag Voice. And in Valley Ag Voice, we're not only doing paid advertising, but we're doing a story, like an editorial story. And then we're working with Todd's team to do some direct outreach, especially to those farmers where we know they are operating on the boundary or within the boundary of the community.
And that same information will go from that magazine print that they do to the Kern County Farm Bureau, all the recipients.
I'm going to
Great, thank
interrupt
you.
for just one moment. Sorry. Raina, we can barely hear you in the telephone. If you can hear me. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, it's been fixed.
And this is perfect segue to circle to our Spanish speaking participants to see if there's any thoughts, reactions, questions about this document. And we did see in the chat that one of the person did not receive a paper copy. So the Air District will work on that. And I do see a couple more hands from our Zoom participants, but we're going to circle back to Spanish speaking folks first.
Sounds like we do not have any comments on the phone, and it doesn't sound like we have any here at this moment.
Okay. Colleen, I do see your hand, and I want to acknowledge, if you don't mind, our public comments time frame is coming up in just about 10 minutes. If you can hold that thought and your question, I really do appreciate that. We do have a hand from John. John, take it away.
Just real quick, I'm getting a lot of farmers in the area commenting about the low dust harvester. So whatever you're doing, it's working. I would be surprised if there's very many farmers within the 7-mile radius for sure who doesn't know about it. So good job.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing, John. So folks, today, what we've seen, what we've heard, this is document, this is for you. This is to keep track. There's so many measures, either track at glance or dig deeper. If you find any inconsistencies, if you need a little bit more clarity on this or other measures, please reach out and let the Air District know. Again, the purpose for this document is to serve you, to make sure you are informed and you have all the information that you need at hand. Jess, anything else to add to wrap up this item? Anything else to add, Jessica, to wrap up this item?
Sorry, I thought you were asking for like
Okay.
more questions or comments. No, I appreciate a lot of feedback. We definitely will take in all of that feedback, and the next time you see this, it will have the most recent information and maybe some tweaks here and there to make it a little bit easier to navigate.
Great, thank you. Okay, we're doing good on time. Our last agenda item for tonight is the new members of the steering committee. I know we have a very active steering committee member who's been reaching out to other residents and encouraging them to participate and serve on this committee. And the Air District has received several applications from the Shafter residents who would like to be part of this group. And Heather is gonna walk us through what did they receive, what is gonna be the next steps for this process. Heather?
Hello, thank you, Hannah. And thank you everyone for your feedback tonight. It really is awesome to hear that you find the tracker useful and that we're making progress communicating our efforts. And yeah, John, the manufacturers also know about those harvesters, those low dust harvesters. So at least we have a bunch of boots on the ground at the Ag Show talking about the possibilities. Let's talk quickly about the makeup of our steering committee. We haven't talked recently. Most of you have been here since inception, and that's like, what, 2 years now we've been doing this. And currently, in case you weren't aware, we have 28 members that are listed on the roster. 18 of those are residents, and the others represent either the government sector or the advocate sector, community nonprofits. But specifically right now, we want to talk about residents. Of those 18 residents, a quick look at the last year of attendance in your community, and we've probably got 4 people we haven't seen in over a year. So that's something to consider. So we're dealing with about 14 people of the potential to show up each night. And we've got 2 applicants in the queue. I think one of them is even here tonight that are interested in being a part of the committee. And so it is our point at which to bring it back to you You guys have been in the trenches together for a long time, and see if we can proceed forward and add those 2 residents to the committee. Or I should say, and see if we have objections to the opposite.
Okay, Heather, to make sure I heard you correctly, there's 2 applications to be from residents to be part of this committee.
For resident members to be part of the chapter steering committee, yes.
Okay, and what we're asking for this committee, if you guys have any objections adding new residents to the committee, I see thumbs up from Gus. I see a hand from John. John, any thoughts?
I just wanted to know who is not showing up and who it is that's wanting to join the committee. If that was handed out, I missed it.
That's a legitimate question, John.
That is a good question. I did not provide it in detail. I can give you information as to the folks that we haven't seen in about a year. Those would be David Peiser, not sure how to say his last name. Maria Jaime, Philip Jimenez, and one of them actually I'm thrilled I actually see tonight, and I know it's because of conflict of work, so we won't even mention that person. He's here with us tonight. So at least 3 folks that we haven't seen in some time. There's about 3 more people that made it maybe once, twice tops last year. But there's a good core, maybe 8 of you, 9, 10 of you that attend very regularly, and we're very thankful for you.
And who are the new folks?
The new folks, one of them is Minerva Hernandez, and the other is Maribel Valle. And I believe Minerva is here tonight if she has any comments.
Okay, I see no objections from Gus. If you have any concerns or objections, this is a good time to share it with the rest of the group, so we know where you stand with adding those 2 additional members to the steering committee. Linda, I do see your hand. Oh, it went away.
Oh, I should note what we would need to do probably moving forward, and something to consider, although I do know that maybe some of the interested folks have been a part of it and attending anyway, but we're going to visit this with another committee too, to see about addressing resident attendance, and would need to maybe do a quick training, or at least, provide some materials, get them up to speed, try and, make it a smooth transition to start.
Great. Thanks, Heather. And Heather, correct me if I'm wrong, the goal for this program for the steering committee is always to be resident driven.
Yes,
so the
absolutely.
Air District is keeping an eye on participation and want to ensure that the representation landscape and makeup is still what this program is being intended. Linda, I want to circle to you and then circle to our co-host Annabelle for some additional thoughts on adding new residents to the committee.
I just had a question for those of us that maybe have been here for the last 2 years. Will the new folks have the exact same voting as the old steering committee members, just since, some of them have been in here for the long haul, and I just was curious how that all works out?
You're asking that of your peers, right, Linda?
Or anyone?
Yeah, I think she's asking the Air District, and long story short, Linda, yes. I mean, I think it would, at the same time, it'd be on the district to get any new additions up to speed with the work that's been done, helping to educate them so that they are fully aware of everything that has gone on in the past, so that they can make, good informed decisions. Like Hannah mentioned, I mean, this is intended to be the resident, community driven, and we really want to have and value having people like yourself who are residents of the area, know the challenges and could provide insight into ways to move this program forward. So that's our thoughts on that topic.
Yeah, and then going forward, if there is an opportunity, I mean, is this the last cutoff, or if more people are interested, how long can they join for?
I we've talked about that. It's not an open enrollment. It's more about just addressing the fact that we have new interests. We could, as a committee, you could consider new applicants on an annual basis, but in all reality, we just need to address these two right here tonight.
Okay.
So there's two things. There's one, the district received 2 applications and asking this committee if it's okay to proceed with accepting these applications. And what concerns do you have, Linda? Your question about, voting and bringing them up to speed. It's, very legitimate concern. So we would love to hear what other type of questions and concerns do you have like that. And yes, so John, I see your hand. Let me circle back to Annabelle and our Spanish speaking participants, and then I'll go to you. And I think I'm...
¿Aló? No es una pregunta, simplemente gracias por tomarnos en cuenta.
Not a question, I just want to say thank you for keeping us in mind.
Ellos han estado anónimamente con nosotros desde el año pasado.
They've been with us anonymously since last year.
Me da gusto que ya los estén tomando en cuenta. No están siendo, ¿cómo se dice?
I'm very happy that you're keeping them in mind.
Que no saben, porque ellos han trabajado con nosotros en comité y en juntas y todo. Ellos están al tanto de lo que se está tratando las juntas.
And don't worry, they've been aware. They've been with us the whole time. They've been in the committees. They've been in the meetings. So they're aware of everything that's going on. Thank you.
Thank you for that feedback. Awesome.
No, es todo. Gracias.
That's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Hannah.
John, close us up on this item.
Had to unmute. I'm sorry. I really don't have a problem with putting people on who want to be on and people who haven't participated, them not being on. But I would, 2 things. One is I'd like a report that really does give the attendance of all the citizens. I think what I heard was that there's spotty attendance. So it may be, and then I would like for the committee to address that participation in and of itself. And then I would like, I think it would be important for people who do want to be on the committee to be able to tell us why they want to be on the committee. I'd like, they can do that through a friend or something else. I understand some of the hesitancy, but at the same time, chapter does have a lot of diversity and there are a lot of different interests. And so I'd like to, make sure or do our best to make sure that we have as balanced a committee as possible.
Great. Thank you, John. All good, valid points. So one of the things, looking at that attendance as a separate action item in a larger context, and another suggestions for future committee members to share why they would like to be part of this committee. All good feedback, good questions, good suggestions. Thank you so much for sharing. This is exactly the type of information the Air District was looking tonight to hear from you, from the committee members. Okay. So we're gonna go into wrap up. We have about 3 minutes left, and I would like to open this agenda item for the public comments. If we have any comments, Colleen, thank you so much for raising your hand. Please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
I'm Colleen Tabor with the Kern County Farm Bureau. Just a couple of comments/questions regarding the low dust harvesting. I know that you guys mentioned you're working with Valley Ag Voice and the Ag Source, and we are I'm picking off the pertinent information and putting it on our e-news when that's available, and providing that to our members. I'm wondering if there is a social media
Can we put, I'm sorry, we're going to interrupt. We just lost the interpreter.
Oh.
She's going to rejoin the call right now, but if we can just pause for just a moment, please.
Sure.
Colleen, I'm going to ask you for the second time tonight. Please
Sorry.
hold your thought for just a moment.
No problem. I took great notes, so we're good. I can come right back to it.
Can we change Emilia to the interpreter? Would that be possible?
Kim, can we do that?
Oops. Sorry, let me just stop share real fast.
Okay.
So I'm using the Team Linguistica email. If you want to just assign that one really quickly, that should, if it works. I mean, I don't know why apparently Reina was dropped. So
it happens.
Yeah. Zoom.
Okay, you're all good? Okay, cool.
Colleen, third time is a charm, they say.
Okay, do I need to start over?
We assume that the interpretation has been lost from the beginning. So yes, if you can be brief,
Okay.
start over, that would be great.
Okay, no problem. So in regards to low dust harvesting, I know that you guys mentioned that you're working with the Valley Ag Voice, and which is fantastic, Ag Source. And we also have been using the emails to pick off the pertinent information for different webinars that have been available to inform on incentives. One question I did have was, do you have any sort of campaign, if you will, for social media, or do we need to create that ourselves? I think that might be a great way for us to get the word out on these different incentives as well.
The short answer is yes. We have been challenged because since, Heather, I forget how far back it went, but for the last month at least.
Yeah, I want to say probably December, January, yes.
Yes, we actually budgeted for and had in our strategy a social media campaign that actually include paid social media. The problem is that Facebook has put a hold on certain types of advertising, such as what would come from a government agency. And we have been waiting for that hold to be released, basically. The short answer is yes, we will do some some free posting, and we're happy to share the graphics and the stuff that we have for those free posts, but we tend to try and put a little more focus and strategy behind it, and we've been held up a little bit just because of what's been going on in the social media landscape over the last few months. But so short answer is yes, we're just kind of on hold.
Okay, no problem. I was just trying to think as we were talking about other things. I know at Farm Bureau, we're working really hard to get, start utilizing the social media outlets a little bit more as people get them on their phone and get notifications that way and don't always like to dig through an email to connect to different links. So that's been something we've been focusing on. And I think that would be a great opportunity for us to put that there too. So we will put together our own. We've been using Canva and doing some things like that, but that might be a great opportunity for us to get those incentives just that much more traction. So yeah. I know that low dust harvesting has been a big topic of conversation for a long time now. So we're excited to continue pushing that amongst the others.
Yeah, and if you want to share anything with Heather or I, feel free. And if you need anything, hey, it'd be nice to have a graphic, or, hey, that ad that you just ran in, AgSource or whatever, can we get a copy of that? We are more than happy to provide that stuff for you.
That would be great. And I don't know, in your typical, when you post those things, I don't know if you wouldn't mind just CCing me, and I can always just pick it off of there and use it.
Perfect.
So that'd be great.
What's the Farm Bureau's
username, handle?
Yes.
Okay, so it depends on
the medium.
Jamie, I think you and I have done email in the past. Let me just double check that I have your email, and I can shoot you that information. Yes, I have you right here. Great. So I will get you all of that information, and that way we can start to exchange that information so that we can start posting and start killing two birds with one stone, for lack of a better term. Perfect. So that we're not reinventing the wheel.
Great. Yep.
And as you heard Todd say, it launches officially. He let the cat out of the bag. So you'll see a lot of, in our sort of organic posting, it will take off despite the paid advertising that's on hold.
Yeah.
Okay. No problem. I just was trying to think of ways that we could work together to get more information out. So that's great.
Thank you,
and then sorry, I have one more thing and then I'll be done.
Okay.
Really quick question about the criteria for the steering committee members. What is the I'm hearing conflicting information out in the world about what is the definition of residence.
So a resident is someone that lives within the boundary of the AB 617 community. That's at the most basic level. Now, there may be certain individuals that live within a community and they may be affiliated, maybe they represent a business or they represent a community-based organization. And so as part of their roles and responsibilities, they may be asked to represent them, in which case maybe they aren't a resident member of the steering committee. In that case, they could be a representative of the community-based organization or the business if that's what they choose. So that's kind of the distinguishing characteristics between those.
Okay.
Thanks, Rand, for sharing. Colin, thank you so much for chiming in and bringing this up. And so good to have you. I'm gonna close the public comment period because we're running a little bit over time. And Bianca, I see your hand. We're gonna circle to you next. Heather, do we have any public comments or other questions on the Facebook?
I am looking.
Thank you.
Just a hello from another community. We're good.
Just a hello from another community.
Another CSC.
And I do want to acknowledge in public comment earlier on in the chat from Vincent, who asked to introduce ourselves when we're speaking. So Vincent, the way in these meetings, everyone is renamed. So their first and last name and their affiliation is in the participant list. So when person is speaking, based on the icon that you see, you can see who is speaking. But thank you for bringing this up. Okay, I'm gonna, Bianca, help me to close this meeting up with your last comment or question.
Yes, I do have a question in regards to the nut harvesters. I was wondering, is the application for the nut harvesters just for the boundaries for AB 617, or is it for all Kern County? That is my question, just in case if the Farming Bureau decides to do a public post, just to refer back that it's only done for Shafter area, not just in Kern County. I just wanted to make that clear. Or
Great question, Bianca. This is Todd DeYoung with the Air District. The program is actually valley-wide that will be opening tomorrow. Now, there is specific funding for the Shafter AB 617 community, which includes the boundary area and the buffer area. That funding does come with some enhanced incentives, but the general district program is available district-wide, which includes other parts of Kern County, Tulare County, Fresno, and so on.
Great. Thank you.
Oh, and so that includes AB 617. That's extra funding from the AB 617 for the resting part of the nut harvester. Is that what I'm understanding? It's like the
Yes.
tune into up that you put a portion and then the district puts the resting portion.
That's correct. And in the Shafter community, the 617 community, they're eligible for a higher incentive amount, which means they get a higher portion of that, the unit covered.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bianca, for that question. Okay, I know we're a little bit over time. My apologies. But before we adjourn, I do want to circle back to Annabelle for some final comments and reflections to our wonderful community co-host who put amazing presentation together and prepared so much for this meeting. Annabelle, couple final thoughts for the greater good of the group.
Anabel, ¿algún último pensamiento?
Gracias por la oportunidad, por dejarles a saber lo que hacemos aquí en la ciudad por nuestros compañeros, vecinos, residentes de aquí de Shafter. Muchas gracias por su atención. Espero verlos el mes que entra, si Dios me da licencia. Cuídense mucho y los queremos.
Thank you for letting us know what is going on here in our community of Shafter, for bringing this information to our neighbors, our community members, and we definitely look forward to seeing you next month, and we greatly care about you and sending you a virtual hug.
Thank you so much, Annabelle, for co-hosting. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Members of the public, steering committee members, folks from the state, thank you for staying with us, providing excellent feedback, good conversations, good questions. Our next meeting on the March 8th. We'll see you all in 1 month. Have a good night.
Goodbye.
Buenas noches. Good night, everyone.
Buenas
Good night.